All right, what's going on, everyone? Jared Couture here from Kung Fu Music Lessons, Two Cities, One World. And today we're here with the great Mark Lettieri of
Hello, everybody.
Snarky Puppy. Hello. This is how you pronounce your last name, right?
You got it right. And thank you for saying yours because I wasn't sure how to say your last name either. So
Awesome, man. Cool. Well,
cool.
thanks so much for being here. This is exciting. A lot of my students are very excited that it's going to be doing this interview.
Yeah,
So
my pleasure, man. Right on.
right on. So guys, we're going to be talking about music mastery and many things. But first off, Mark, can you go ahead and just give us a little background, kind of like when you started playing and a little bit of your musical progression of your career as well, but really like from the beginning, the early times.
All right. Take it way back.
Yes.
I mean, I'm one of those people that I guess I'll say I grew up in a household that had music in it, even though my parents aren't musicians. My dad plays a little bit of guitar, just kind of as a hobby on the side every now, once in a blue moon or whatever. So, but that was good because it meant that there was an old acoustic guitar in the house that somehow found its way into my hands, But thankfully, there was always great music on all the time, whether we were in the car or friends came over for dinner or something. And when I say great music, I mean all the classic rock and pop and soul and great music, everything from Motown to the 60s and 70s and 80s, and just good music. Thankfully that was a part of my life. And when I was about 11, 12, this is when I started fooling around on my dad's guitar and just making noise. And I remember he came into my room. He was like, "You want some lessons or something? Like, are you into this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. What the heck?" And so started taking guitar lessons from a friend's mom because my mom was teaching he and I art lessons. My mom was an artist, and so she taught us a little
awesome.
art class, and then his mom would teach us a little guitar class. And so that was cool. So I learned basic chords, and your cat's going up the stairs. That's pretty cool.
That's Nala. That's the dog.
Oh, there's a dog?
Yeah.
Oh, a cat. Oh, weird. Okay. I don't know. I don't know anything about animals. But anyway, so we got started that way, and I had another local community teacher that taught me tablature and things like that. And it was right around the time when I started listening to stuff that my parents weren't listening to. Not because I didn't like it, but I just was discovering stuff on my own with my friends. And so that was a lot of grunge rock, and rock, And so I learned all that stuff and practiced all that stuff in our garage band, And in high school, I had a teacher that was a little bit more on the advanced side of things as far as technique and theory. And he was a shredder, and I wanted to be a shredder. My favorite guitar players were quote unquote shredders, who I still love to this day, so that was cool because it kept me, there was someone to hold me accountable every week for learning stuff and getting my stuff together, really. And then, my musical tastes broadened and ended up in college, not studying music, but still loving music and starting bands and just playing a lot of guitar and kind of teaching myself. I took some lessons with a jazz instructor when I was in school, not as part of my curriculum necessarily, but just on the side. He taught me a lot about composition and cool stuff like that. And, it's just been a long process of a lot of self-discovery and going down different avenues of music and sound and styles of guitar playing. And, ended up joining bands that did stuff and some that didn't do anything, and, learned how to be in a recording studio with people and learned how to tour and, learned how to write my own songs and make my own records. And here we are.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, cool. Along with that, because you did talk about a few of the teachers, I did have a question, which is, who are some of your, maybe did you have even more teachers? Are you still studying with some people sometimes? Or who are some of the main teachers that really made a big impact for you? And maybe those are the people that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, those were like the formal instructors that I had over the course of many years. There was a lot of like years of self-taught, self-discovery, as we all have,
Right.
that kind of thing. I have a friend now who I wouldn't call him a guitar teacher, but he's been kind of like a musical mentor in some respects, where he's very deep into jazz theory, and most of it goes over my head, but we still hang out, and he shows me some things, and I show him kind of more from where I'm coming from, and so it's mutual in that respect. So I think now I'm at a point where I have peers that we are constantly sharing ideas with and influencing each other and stealing shit from,
right.
But, it is what it is. So yeah, that's kind of how I would describe it now.
That's cool. That reminds me of something that Dean once told me, Dean Brown, one of my teachers, and he said one time, like, someone asked him, who are your influences? And he said, well, the people I play with. And he said, if any musician is being honest, the truth is that you're influenced mostly by the people you play with.
Yeah,
most.
He's absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, there's things in my playing that I've taken from friends, and,
right.
and they probably took some stuff from me too. So it's like, it's not all like, listening to famous guitar players or whatever.
Sure.
So
one more question in the same thing is, so since you're very self-taught, you said a lot of self-discovery, is there anything that you can specifically say that you have learned or found through this self-discovery that you think is unique, that maybe would be hard to find through an education system or something like that?
Well, it's hard to say because I don't have a formal music education from a school,
right?
Like maybe some kids who went to an arts high school or who went to a music college have. So I can't totally say that there are things that I discovered that they didn't.
Right.
However, I think because maybe that's a hard question. So much of my discovery was just learning by ear, and I think in that case I probably learned it maybe like the wrong way, but then figured out a way to make it right in my own way, which I think is kind of what's cool about learning by ear, is because if it's shown to you, it's like, okay, well, there's not really anything I can do about it. Like, it's not really a lot of places I can take this, but if I'm hearing something, it's like, well, I think he's doing that or she's doing this, but I don't know, this sounds cool, and then you are off on your own path. It's like, I would say all of our favorite artists at some point failed to be one of their favorite artists because they couldn't do it exactly, so they did it their own way, now the failure is a strong word. That's not what I mean, but they took what spoke to them personally about it and did a thing with it, and that's why we have the progression of artists that we have. So for me, it was about listening and trying to figure stuff out, and then all of a sudden realizing how my way of interpreting it, was important to me, rather than like duplicating something exactly. Now, there are a lot of cases where, I would try to attempt to do that just to feel like I've accomplished it, but then at the same time, I could never, even if it's almost exactly like what I'm hearing, it's still not quite the same. It's just two different types of DNA involved. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, those
differences I think should be celebrated by yes. artists who are trying to learn and create. So
cool. That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. One of my lessons the other day with a group lesson online, I made everybody tell me some of their favorite songs, like their favorite awesome guitar stuff, and okay, you have 10 minutes to go learn at least one lick that you love, like something that every time you hear it, you're just like, oh man, and come back in 10 minutes and say, okay, I actually chose one of your songs on your new album.
Oh really?
Which was, I think it's called Seuss Pants.
Yeah.
And like, there's this one spot. I think I looked at it today. It's something like 317 or 325. It's like really awesome lick.
Oh, thanks.
But actually, when I turned on the song, I didn't even get there. I literally heard the first line, and I was like, "Damn, that's badass." I'm just gonna start right there. So,
oh, cool. Thanks,
however,
man.
I didn't use a whammy, and you were using it, and it's like, man, it's tough to get this sound. And I'm just saying this because it's like what you just said. It's like it's different DNA, it's a different thing, but it's also like how to get this sound without maybe the same tools, you know?
Sure.
It's a fun
yeah,
thing to look for.
Yeah, I totally get. Like, I'm kind of not a great slide guitar player. Like, I could probably be good at it if I really practiced, but like, I'm so far down the tremolo bar route that like I'm just gonna figure out how to play slide with that because that's what I already kind of know how to do. You know what I mean? So I get it, yeah. And I've actually had to play that song with on guitars that don't have whammy bars. And it's like,
oh really?
Isn't the same.
Oh yeah. That's cool. I got to hear that. Yeah. And so anyway, segueing right into that, though, I want to ask you about the album because I think it's amazing. Guys, if you haven't heard it yet, 2019, you just recently published this amazing album, released this album called The Nature of Things, right?
Things of That Nature.
Sorry, Things of That Nature.
No, that's okay. It's a phrase that my father-in-law says all the time.
Really? So that's one thing I want to ask you about is what does this mean?
I just thought it was a cool. Well, I guess it's deep in a sense. Like, he always says that he's a Texan guy, so he'll end a phrase with and things of that nature. and so I always thought that I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, And so I had the title before I had the record, and then as I was writing it and putting together, I noticed that a lot of the songs were about things of the nature of my current life. A lot of the songs are about my family or friends or experiences I've had on a personal level with people in my life. And so maybe those are the things of the nature that we live in together here. So
that's awesome.
I guess that's how it all came together. I do that a lot. Like I'll end up with a title before I have a piece of music. And I like words, but I'm kind of a bad lyricist. But if I can get a title or some kind of conception involving that, I can make some music out of it.
That's cool. That's a good way to maybe start the process, the creative process.
For some people, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And within that, you kind of just answered that, but I still want to dig a little deeper because I wrote down a few questions here. So what is the main message of your album, if any, and what does it represent for you? Those are some ideas, and that's why I wanted to know the meaning of the name. But you just said, that these are kind of some life experiences, and could you maybe just share one of the specific things?
Yeah, well, I can tell you all of them. It's
okay.
Pretty brief. I can go song by song if you have time.
Let's hear it.
What's track one? Blockheads. I had the name first. It's from the Gumby show. You remember the Blockheads on Gumby?
Oh man,
I was watching Gumby with my daughter, and I was like, oh, the Blockheads. I remember those guys. They were like the villains, Yeah. And but I also we have two cats, and they're total blockheads. Like they're just dorks, they're cats. And so I was like, all right, you guys get a song.
That's so cool.
Blockheads, Second track is Nap Time. I wrote that while my daughter was taking a nap. I had about an hour and a half, and I felt it was weird. It was an odd time. It was like she would go to sleep, and I was like, oh, I'm creative now. Oh my God. And I would have to just figure it out. And so the song is like fast paced, like pop funk, because I didn't have a lot of time. So that's sort of hurried on purpose, Wow. Seuss Pants, that title was inspired by a pair of my wife's pajama pants that look like they're out of a Dr. Seuss book. And then the music for that one kind of came, I was just practicing some fake slide stuff with I'm just noodling with my tuner right now, sorry. Fidgeting, need a fidget spinner. Was messing around with some vibrato bar techniques, just practicing, and came up with this melody, and I was like, oh, it's really cool. This has weight. It doesn't sound like a guitar lick. Let's do something with it. And so I started harmonizing chords, and there we have it. Track 4.
Point is.
Yeah, well, that's a ballad for my daughter. Her name is Isabella. We call her Izzy. So Point Is.
Oh, that's awesome.
I wrote that while she was still in the belly and would kind of play it, and she would kicking. So that was kind of cool to see, you know.
Dude.
5.
Chicory.
Wrote it while I was drinking the drink, chicory coffee. Had a couple grooves I was playing around with and just was like, oh, there's our title, you know?
Nice.
So it kind of has a bit of that kind of swampy southern, I don't want to say New Orleans necessarily because it's not quite there, but sort of a country soul kind of ballady kind of thing, which reminds me of chicory, you know, because that's a southern drink, you know. Let's see what else we got. 6. Babinga.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke amongst a couple of my musician friends, which I'll tell you the joke, but it might totally go over everyone's head. My keyboard buddy Bobby Sparks, who plays in Snarky Puppy and has his own project and everything, he likes to joke about like old school gospel bass players and their super high quality 7-string Babinga basses. And he goes, you know, oh man, it's a 7-string Babinga bass, you know. See, again, you're probably just like, I don't understand why this is funny, but it's funny to us. And so the song is called Babinga because it was written on a 7-string and played on a 7-string guitar.
Nice.
So there's that one track. Yeah, so that's something that my bass player Wes says all the time. And I had the tune before I had a title, and I was just like, "It's for Wes." I guess maybe, I don't know, but we never play it. We need to play that song more. Actually, that might be my favorite, one of my favorite tracks on the record. It's like it's like a rock tune, but with changes, at least in the verse. You know, there's changes in it. It's like rock with changes. I like that. You know, and then 8 is Oh Hi, which was written because of a open tuning that was taught to me by David Crosby, who, at least, I don't know if he still is out there, but he lives sort of near the sort of like northern LA area. He's not in the town of Ojai, but I always thought Ojai sounded like a nice place in my mind, and it kind of reminded me of that Northern California. It's not Northern California, it's just north of Los Angeles. Kind of beach meets woods kind of thing. So plus it's hard to spell. So
That's awesome.
So that's it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for laying all that out. That's so fun to hear.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so cool. All right, dude. Well, a couple more questions here. So one fun one is, could you share one like really profound experience you've had in your music career? Like, I know there's many, but I don't know, just any like one thing that sticks out that was just, you know, unforgettable, kind of like really profound or made a big impact in some way.
Oof. Man.
Like some of the heavy ones, like some of the big ones, you know.
I don't know. These are those questions where you think you'd always have an answer, and then somebody asks you and you can't remember anything. But some of the big ones. Well, I'll tell a story.
Okay.
When I was first starting out doing this for a living, I toured with an artist who was signed to this big R&B label in LA. He was based in Dallas, and was signed to this big label that had just recently, I guess, put out a really popular Jill Scott record. So they were like riding high on this thing. Signed this guy who is now a really dear friend of mine, and kind of put him on this like bare bones, what the heck are we doing promo tour, where essentially they put the 5 of us in a Suburban that we rented, and essentially just threw us to the caution to the wind, and just like, okay, well, here are the dates, figure out how you're gonna do all these things. And they would really just sort of like make us drive to, like, in this case, Jacksonville, Florida, from Dallas, which is like 15 hours. We get to this gig, they find out that the venue has no idea that they're supposed to accommodate a band. They thought that it was like just gonna be our singer with like a CD, and he was gonna hand it to the DJ.
Oh man.
And sing like his track, and then, you know, in the building, peace, like whatever they do, you know, the guys with the designer sweatpants. I don't know what the heck. And so it was like that kind of scene, and we were like, we're a full band with instruments. Like, what do we do? And we didn't do anything. In fact, our singer, the artist, was so bummed that I don't even think he did anything. I think he gave the guy his CD and was like, dude, just play it, whatever. Like, I don't even care. And this was like one of the first out-of-town gigs I'd ever done.
Oh, man.
After we drove all the way out there, like, we rehearsed. Like, the band was great. The music was awesome. Like, the guy is super talented. And we were really excited to do this. And I was just like, you know what? If I'm going to do this for a living, I need to really make sure I want to do this and then get tough. Like, you know, like, you got to be willing to get kicked in the face a lot before things are going to be okay. And then that was so crazy is because then the next time, you know, like, we would be there, we had this total failure of a gig. And then we would drive to Nashville, for example, and for whatever reason, that gig was great. Like, it was really well promoted. There was a crowd. Everyone had a good time. There was another band that played with us, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then the next night, yeah, you know, we had to cancel because, you know, the sound guy didn't feel like it. We didn't sell enough tickets. I was just like, okay.
Oh,
and
God.
I had a day job at the time that I asked to take off from. And I'm thinking, like, I'm gonna lose my job. I'm not gonna be able to, you know, I'm gonna come back with no money. Like, what am I doing? But then every time I got on stage and played with those guys, I was like, this is why I'm doing this. Because nothing else feels like this. Nothing else gives me purpose for what I've worked so hard for, you know? And so it's like, okay, cool. I gotta believe in what I'm doing. I gotta be confident, not arrogant. There's a big difference. Mm. And then I got to be tough as nails, man. I got to have, you know, like, you're going to get kicked in the face and in the chest and in the, you know, down below, and it's going to suck. But if you really want it, you'll make the sacrifices to figure out a way to get to where you want to be with it. And that was, you know, I was 21 when that happened, just thinking, like, what have I signed up for? But anyway, the artist, his name was Keith Young. Well, his name still is Keith Young. And he's doing amazing things right now, you know. So it worked out for everybody. But we were both in the same, you know, I was just a young guy that he found, and he was the artist, so he felt horrible, you know, that he dragged us all the way out there. But, man, there were some times on those tours, man, just, oof. Wow. early days, buddy.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just talking to my friend Piero last night. He's from Peru. He's an amazing percussionist and musician. And he was just saying, you know, it's like everybody kind of has to go through and, you know, play those terrible gigs, you know, like kind of.
Yeah, I wonder about people that don't. Yeah, if you've never had that, I wonder if you're going to last, because it's going to happen to you.
Right.
And I'd rather it happen early than, you know, when things are riding high. And then, you know, so that's how you learn how to roll with the punches, baby.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Cool, man. All right, here's a fun one. So one thing in the Kung Fu music program is I have music philosophy as part of the core, because I feel like if you understand, just simply talking about it makes you a better player. For example, in jazz, like, everyone learns the idea of comping. If you never have that conversation, you know what I mean, and you play, it's just, you're going to be much better off. So there's different philosophies, and so I want to ask you, in terms of, like, people who philosophize about music, who are some of your favorite musical philosophers?
Oh, interesting. This is actually kind of recent, and you can check this out. I remember I had the pleasure of talking with Wayne Krantz, who's one of my
awesome.
all-time favorite guitar players.
Immediately when I heard Snarky Puppy for the first time, I heard Wayne Krantz. I was like, yeah, I could totally tell.
He's such an influential cat, and he has some really interesting views on, like, how he looks at the metronome as, like, a thing that it's always going to be there for him. It's like a very consistent bandmate, and then he can just kind of fit in between and worry about the spaces in between. And I was just like, oh, that's kind of really cool, because then you don't feel scared or locked into, you know what I'm saying? Like, you should have him on your show first of all, but so he can explain it way better than I.
That'd be so cool.
But that was really neat to hear. And then Prince had a really cool quote. It's kind of sounds a little arrogant, but I get where he's coming from. So he was interviewed, and he was like, people ask me what I think about, new music that's out right now. And I just tell them, if I want to hear something new, I just make it myself. And I was just like, the balls on that guy. But then I thought deeper about it, and I was like, he's not saying that he's better than anybody. He just knows that if he wants to find a new sound, he reaches inside and challenges himself to come up with something that he hasn't done yet. And I was just like, that's awesome. Or maybe he did mean that he was better than everybody. I don't never met the guy, but I like to think.
That's not what he said.
I know, it's not. Yeah, I like to think that he uses that as like a way to challenge himself. So I've always thought about that. And I've always thought the Eddie Van Halen quote, where he's like, "Man, if it sounds good, it's good." Yeah. It's pretty simple philosophies, but if you really think about it, like, does it sound good? Well, yeah, it's good. Okay, we're good. We're done. Moving on. You know what I mean? Like, well, if it doesn't sound good, okay, then we need to fix things. But if everyone's like, sounds great, on to the next one, So, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, those are some fun ones. Yeah, okay, well, to dig in a little deeper to that, what are some of your personal music philosophies, like, if you can share any, or maybe your approach, or how you like to think about music, or any kind of like philosophies that you keep about music for yourself?
Right. I try to stay the course as far as what I think is honest to me, and that's very hard to do, especially nowadays where we have access to so many things and styles and sounds that maybe are way, are popular or whatever. And I've noticed that anytime I chase something that's not really mine, it doesn't feel right. There's just something about, like, you're doing this for the wrong reason. And, I look at that a lot when I write, for my own material. Because one, I can't please everybody. I mean, I don't even know if I can please that many people at this point, but it's like, I'm hopefully in tune enough with the way that I sound, the way I approach how I produce my stuff, and whatever words you want to use, compose, arrange, or to where it reflects my sound. But I try to take influence in a natural way, not in a way that I need to all of a sudden be like, oh, okay, so this is what we're supposed to be doing now. Okay, I should be doing that. I don't like that, and it's hard to say. Like, I'm saying this out loud so that I can hear myself say it and remind myself. So, I spent so much time discovering all different kinds of music and trying to be the best funk guitar player, trying to be the best rock guitar player, trying to be the most soulfulest gospel, whatever. It doesn't matter. We all do that. We all want to be the best versions of whatever we can find. But really, if I'm the best version of myself, which at this point is kind of like a amalgamation of all those things I discovered and fiddled around with, that's the most important thing, I think, for me. Because when this is all over, I just want to be Mark Lettieri, you know what I mean? Like, whatever the hell that is. We're still trying to figure it out, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we all just want to be the best version of ourselves. So that's where I look at things,
That's
I don't want to be like a B+ version of somebody else. Hopefully, there's probably somebody watching this where he sounds like a B+ version of guitarist A, B, C, D, and All right. Well, I'm working it out. It's a work in progress.
That's awesome, man. That is really, really, really cool. Yes. Yeah, actually,
I'm
also
just being honest with you, and I've had a couple coffees, so.
All right, let's rock and roll.
You know,
Let's get it.
let's get right.
Oh man, that's awesome, dude. No, I love that, and also I want to share like one of the things that I do is I have to share this because you just mentioned it. I think it's so valuable. And the 5th level of the program, we do something where everybody has to. We learn intervals and harmony based off emotion. So like you can name an interval with the emotion of it only from this standpoint. And I have people look at an emotion wheel. And so it's like a minor second, it's a minor interval that says something immediately that maybe it's kind of sad or dark just by the name. However, let me hear from your subjective perspective, just listen and say this. But that's the beginning. Then it goes to harmony, triads, then it goes to 7th chords and beyond. But the point is, we use that specifically to direct purposefully the music emotionally, how exactly we want to express what needs to be expressed. But within that, the main thing is I make people write down 10 characteristics of themselves. Like, what kind of a person are you? 10 characteristics. Now, how can you specifically demonstrate that rhythmically, melodically, harmonically? Because now we've done all the emotion training. So we know, that this characteristic could be these kind of sounds. So then it's like really purposefully sounding ourselves, getting everybody to be themselves. Like, yes, we must cover people and learn and evolve. And like you said, like you don't want to be a B+ version of someone else. Like we need to, how do you sound like yourself right away? And I think everybody knows who they are. It's just asking the question, defining it, and being it. Sometimes it's that simple,
Sure.
Musically too. So
that's a great method, man. I'm going to think about that myself, actually.
I can show you some of it later. I could even share my screen and show you guys right now. But I do want to keep this on you.
Well, either way.
Your mind, these things. I did want to share that because it's a good relation.
I love it.
Thank you. And cool, man. I got just a few more questions. One is because my student Joe asked me to ask you this, so I will do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Joe, he's a lawyer. He's a musician.
Oh, I didn't do it.
Yeah. Well, if you need somebody, dude.
Wait, what kind of lawyer is he? Like criminal defense? Because I might need one of those. But...
He's in many kinds, yes, and for music.
Right. Okay.
So shout out to Joe Ott. But
all right.
But he asked, like, do you have any kind of specific practice routine, or are there things that you do in your weekly practice, or what are like the things that you do over and over again? Like, are there anything like that?
I get asked this question a lot, and
I'm sure
I'm so bummed about the answer that I give, because it's just like I don't have a routine. I don't really practice. And that's not to say like, I don't have to practice. I do need to practice. It's just like the way I'm just speaking purely from my life existence at this point in my career is so based about just keeping the career thing going that like it's very tough for me to schedule like practice time. You know what I'm saying? Like so it's really scattered. It's like here and there and this, that, and the other. And if I can get a little bit in here and a little bit in there, then I'll do it. And then sometimes if things are really flowing, then I just let that go, and whatever else I was supposed to do that day, I just don't do it. And unless it was like a scheduled thing. It's very kind of, it's never forced, When I was younger, teenage, I would play every afternoon. As soon as I got home from school or from sports practice, I would play for a couple hours before I did my homework. And that lasted into college, with varying degrees of effect on my GPA. But that's another story. Hey, man, I made it. I graduated. I did fine. We're here.
Yeah.
And so, before the career stuff was really picking up, I had more time to do it. Now I'm a father, so there's that whole thing. You know how it is, Yeah,
it changes the game.
So like, and everybody's different, man. Like some people do really well with scheduled stuff like that. I just, maybe it's attention deficit disorder that went undiagnosed or something, but I just can't, I can't. I wish I could say yes, from the hours of 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I work on my drop 2 voicings or whatever. It's like,
Right.
No, I
but
don't.
but okay, but you, so it sounds like mainly you're just practical the time you have working on the things you need
Yeah,
to
and it's just like
priority.
every now I think what it is every kind of job thing that I do, I try to learn from what I'm doing as I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like if I have to learn music for a tour, or like if I have to record a session here at the home studio, which I do a lot of, you know what? That's kind of my practice. And I don't mean like I'm practicing and sending you my practice tracks.
Right.
You know, but that's also why I don't charge by the hour, so that I can take my time and really dig into this person's tune and, you know, learn stuff about how to arrange for this tune and this, that, and the other, and so that they get the best possible thing. So that's a big kind of practice thing for me. And then when I do go into a studio to do a live session, I revert back to kind of what I was able to shed on here at the house for the remote sessions, and you know, make sure I'm nailing stuff in 1, 2, 3 takes, whatever it is. Sometimes it's more than that, but and then, you know, when I can, if I get inspired, like if there's music that I feel like, oh crap, this is a Lettieri thing, I got to do something, then it's like, all right, pump the brakes on whatever else is happening, because if I lose this, then I don't know when I'm gonna get it back. So it's scattered, but it's productive.
That's good. So here within that though, what's kind of your approach to creating parts in general?
Oh, that's a cool question. Well, I mean, I always look at the style first of all. That's the thing about if you're going to be doing, well, I guess it's for anybody, but I get called to do lots of different kinds of music. So I have to be aware of how guitar works in country, how it works in hip hop, for example. And I do that, you know, not so much country, but it happens on occasion, you know. But I'm like hey man, we got to like this tune that needs like kind of a funky rock kind of thing going on. You think you could help us out? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll be that guy, you know. you want the chicken picking, you call somebody else. But anyway, so knowing the style, knowing how the guitar is applied is paramount before you even pick up the instrument. Have an idea of the tones that need to happen. I mean, even for like, something as simple as know the difference between overdrive and distortion, because those are 2 totally different sounds with totally different feels and totally different applications. Like you can't show up to a session and just think that, well, I'm having a guitar solo now, so it just needs to be full on gained up, let's boogie, right? Because that's one sound out of 1,000 that you could possibly apply to this tune, you know? But as far as the actual like arranging of it, I'm always listening to if there's melodies I can play, if there's fills in between vocal lines that might need to happen. Sometimes I'll start with the chorus of the song first and kind of build ideas based on this, what is supposed to be the hook, right? That way, when we get to the chorus, you've already got all the stuff you need, and you don't find yourself, because the problem is sometimes if you start with a verse of a tune, you'll build so much into the verse that when you get to the chorus, you don't have anywhere to go. You know what I'm saying? So usually, like, and depending on the tune, the choruses are where I'll have maybe the most orchestration guitar-wise if needed. Maybe not, but I usually start there, and then the verse 1 and verse 2 will have similarities, but verse 2 there's usually some kind of different idea involved. And then if there's a bridge, that's a great place to introduce an idea that's never been heard in the tune yet, you know. And this is obviously a pop form that we're talking about, but yeah, you want everything to be related, those parts to be related, but sometimes with enough change in tone or feel to where it just maintains forward motion, there's interest, you know. Yeah, but again, a lot of it depends on the style. Like, I'm trying to give an example. Like in modern gospel music, I always usually, if it's an up-tempo song, there's usually some kind of funky rhythm, clean rhythm, and then distorted power chords playing a line or a riff or something like that, you know. You know, pop music is interesting because it can kind of go all over the place. You know, if I'm doing ballad or some kind of contemporary Christian worship song, you know, I know that there's delays and things like that I need to bring in, and textures and all these sort of stuff. Like I don't necessarily would approach it with the same kind of R&B guitar fills that I would do on an R&B song, right? The guitar fills have to be different. You know, I'm thinking sixths and fifths and things like that, not so much trills and all these kinds of things. So it's a process, and a lot of it just comes with listening. The more kinds of music you've sort of kind of internalized, at least on a somewhat surface level, it's a good way to start figuring out how to then arrange your parts. I have a session after this with a good friend of mine who does, it's R&B, but it's like pretty modern, and then it's kind of harmonically kind of advanced, and the only thing that he sent me is a synth track and a vocal. So, and like a very minimalist drum beat, which is the idea. So I have to figure out how to apply guitar to this thing without making it a guitar tune, because there's a lot of space for me to make it a guitar tune.
Oh yeah.
You know, so yeah.
That's cool. That's a great answer. It really made me think of something awesome, which is, that's smart, like starting with the chorus, like you said, it's supposed to be the main hook. And then thinking of, man, like I watched some funny movies recently that they just stick in my head the whole time because they keep repeating the same theme. Like for example, Pan's Labyrinth, it plays this, I mean, all movies do it, but like that movie plays this same repetitive theme the whole time, and it's so catchy. And then the movie Hook, you know, with Robin Williams.
Yeah, wow, old school.
This is old school, but this one, yeah, I just watched the CRDX. It's fun. And then another one is like Jurassic Park, you know, like they just keep reintroducing this theme. But you made me think of a cool idea, which would be to, like you said, start with the chorus, take the main hook and themes, and then like sneakily, not necessarily sneakily, but replace them throughout the verses and things as well, in a way to where when you get there, then it's like even that much stronger. And then by the end, it's like, the hook is there the whole time. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, exactly. There's a certain thing that you've introduced in the hook that can exist in different parts. Just I mean, that's really what you're doing, is you're just trying to tie everything together. And so, you know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sometimes I'll start with a guitar solo if I'm feeling feisty.
Nice. The hook is the guitar solo.
Yeah. Well,
sing.
There are some songs we only remember the guitar solo.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Oh man, that's really cool. Oh, awesome, dude. I have to ask this question because I always do, because you know, the Kung Fu idea is that it actually just translates to mastery through time and effort. It doesn't actually mean martial arts. It means you can have Kung Fu in anything. Mm-hmm. And so I want to ask you, who are some of your, and so the idea is about mastery, because if you, for example, the Shaolin monks who train in the monastery, they become masters, like really all of them by the time, my Shifu told me, even by the time they're 7, because they started like 4 or 5. But at that time, they've trained for 8 hours every single day for 3 years at the most insane stuff, 8 hours minimum every single day. By the time they're 20, it's like, okay, this is insane. Yeah. The ability. So it's about, so my idea is like, okay, this is the approach to, doesn't matter how you practice, just playing, just being in the music, you know, for this time and spending the effort will create mastery at some level. So the idea, or my question for you is, who are some of your favorite, whatever you would consider musical masters? Who are some of your favorite, you know, I call them Kung Fu music masters.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, the way I look at it this way, I mean, mastery is an interesting word, because I think we all still learn, even if we've achieved incredible, you know, ability or whatever. There's always room to improve or just look at things differently. And so, but I think my kind of view on it is like, if you can do things that are second nature to you, where you don't think about it, that's what we want, right? That's where you know, it's just natural, where it becomes like just a part of you. That's what we're all trying to achieve. And I think even players that maybe have that, but still have that sound where they're also kind of reaching and taking risks, that's what I love to hear. Where it's not like, you know, it doesn't sound planned. it's like it's second nature, but then they're like, I know I can do this. What else can I do?
Right.
I think Jeff Beck is a player like that. I guess if we're just talking about maybe instrumentalists,
anyone.
Yeah, I guess anyone. Sure, good point. Someone like, it's hard. We talked about Prince. I just love the way he was just so fearless with everything that he did. It was like, I don't care, I'm gonna do it this way. If you like it, great. Like, to me, that's someone that's mastered
taking risks
and having confidence to just try things.
Miles Davis comes to my mind.
Yeah, sure, he would be a good example. You're killing me, Smalls.
Well, some more. Come on, give me some more.
Yeah, I know.
Some more what? Some more masters.
Some more masters.
No, it's all good.
There's so many. There's so many, man. I don't want to just talk about guitar players, but
it's all good.
It's a guitar show, I guess. Yeah, someone like John Scofield, who's so in tune with his sound that he just does whatever he wants with it. Those kinds of players that have such a distinct voice that they just do whatever they want with it. And that's all the greats. They're all like that. And even writers like Stevie Wonder or something, like he has like a thing. He just knows how to make cool melodies out of whatever chord progression he wants.
Or okay, maybe the easier question is, what are the qualities of the master that you love?
Oh, well, I think I kind of touched on that.
Right.
Just people that don't apologize. You know what I'm saying? Like, people that just do stuff, just do whatever. It's like maybe they made a bad record one time. Okay, they'll make another one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, I want to hear growth. I don't want to hear the same thing every time. I want to hear trying stuff out. And even if it's something where, as a listener, I just don't relate to it. There's something prior that I related to, so obviously I can still relate to both of these things, yeah, if you just listen to like listen to the first Van Halen record. That's four guys in a room that didn't give a shit. They're like, we're gonna play fast, loud, crazy party music with David Lee Roth karate kicking over everyone's heads, and you're gonna like it because we had a lot of fun making it, and that's gonna translate into music because this is what we do, and we're gonna give it to you that way. You know what I mean? Like, I love artists that are, they're comfortable with themselves. I like that. So, I don't know. Do I sound arrogant? Is that what this is? I don't know.
Not at all. No.
Okay. I hope that's not what this is coming across as.
I don't see it like that at all. No,
Okay.
no.
All right.
And don't worry, it's all good. So whatever you feel and think.
I don't know, but yeah, I like hearing that sort of like they believe in what they have enough to put it out with that confidence and take risks on maybe screwing it all up. I like that.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Yeah. And I also just want to add to the whole master thing of a thought. So I just want to say that I think the master is like a master is the person who reaches those levels of subconscious awareness. Like you said, like, don't even think about it. But at the same time, I feel that it also implies, not necessarily, but most of the time, at least for what I'm trying to create for these master people, is that it means that actually the student, you're still the student the whole time. The master is egoless. The master has lost the ego and is completely dedicated to being a student for the whole life.
Sure.
And actually in the program we have the master strap, which is white and black. It goes, the guitar strap's white up to black, but then the master one is white and black. This represents the teacher and the student in harmony. The master as the student, just keeping that fresh, open mind, taking those risks.
I'm glad you said that because I know we've talked about Van Halen a little bit, but he had a quote where he was like, "Man, I'm just a tone chaser." And so it's like, here's the guy that revolutionized the sound of rock guitar, and he still hasn't felt like he's arrived yet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's constantly, but he believes in his journey. You know what I'm saying? So he's willing to kind of like just let it all go and figure out the next thing that he needs to do, right? So I think that's cool. Yeah,
that's
Said
inspiring.
it, man. Yeah,
wow, that's very inspiring.
So
awesome, dude. Well, here, just a couple more questions and we'll roll out. But so yeah, what's next for you, man? I know that there's like a pause on everything right now, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah, where's that?
I mean, I'm in an interesting place. I mean, like I'm meeting with and talking with a lot of people like this, which is fun, you know, hanging and sharing, and I'm teaching a little bit. I have a couple hours in the week where I can dedicate to that and on Skype and stuff. And
are you available for lessons for people?
They can go to the website. Yeah.
Okay.
There's not a lot of space, and that's just kind of by design because my career sort of dictates, you know, I need time to do recordings and write and all these other things, but I'm happy to meet with people when I can and make it happen. So, that's there. And then, I really need to write another baritone guitar record. So that's kind of on I am going to be forcing myself to do that,
awesome.
But hopefully it won't sound forced. And then, thankfully I still have some recording opportunities that are happening. So I'm grateful for that. And, I don't know, man, we'll just figure it out. It's really like week by week, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like before all this happened, I knew what I was doing until August. Right. And now I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing next week, which is kind of exciting. I don't know.
I love it. I'm happy that
slows
everybody
things
has
down.
That.
Yeah, it kind of slows things down in a sense, like, which is good.
I think it's good to take it away from everybody for a second and let's just not do anything. Like we're all grinding so hard all the time. Let's just take it easy, you know?
Yeah, I get it, man.
I mean, I think this is
I'm
one
right
positive.
there with you. I'm right there with you.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Right on.
Awesome, dude. So last closing question, is there any advice that you would have to any musicians or in general? Yeah, but advice to musicians, you know, who are really dedicated to life of music or just anything in general?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I always go back to the feelings that I had that where stuff was just fun. It was fun. It was innocent. It was like, I mean, that's a weird word, but there was no pressure. It was just a hang, you know, those times in my buddy's game room, you know, where we were just noodling on Metallica songs together. Like if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here now. But there's a real honest joy in those moments where it's nothing except just playing the music. And I think that's what keeps me going, because I know that if I can suck it up and get through the hard things of the music business, which is hard and kind of miserable sometimes, you know, at the end of the day, I'm still making music that I'm passionate about with people that I care about. And that's the thing. I think if you can get in a situation where don't worry about the money, don't worry about, and I know that's a lot to say because we need to make I get it. I totally, but you'll figure out a way to get that. But you first have to really have a love for it and understand that you're doing this because it makes you happy. Otherwise, why would you do it if you didn't really like it? You were just kind of good at it or whatever. And so I always found that the universe, God, has a way of kind of working it out to where it's like if the passion and the positivity is there, you know, the other stuff will just kind of fall in line, and you won't expect it. It just shows up, man. God is good. I'll say that.
Awesome. Good closing statement. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you very, very much for being here, for sharing everything with me and with everyone who's going to see this video.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Cool.
So everybody, thank you. So everybody, make sure to check out his website, go to the site, dig into the music, get his albums, and
thank you.
Just enjoy. You know?
Yeah, go outside. I mean, you know, within reason.
Right.
Maybe
Socially
backyard. Yeah, but you know, be careful. But yeah, man.
All right. Thank you.
All right, bud. Thanks, Jared.